As of the making of this video, it is the end of February, and we haven't had to do anything with the hives until now. It was cold and the bees were mostly dormant, as they should be. We finally got a few beautiful days, albeit windy ones, where the weather was warm enough that the bees are flying. We need to check in on them and treat them for mites. Another surprising pest for bees is mice. Mice are always looking for warm places, and hives are a good target. My dad installed these blocks to prevent mice from squeezing inside, and we're removing those first. Once that's done, we can begin our next task, plugging holes. I know, we just unplugged them, but I promise you'll see why in a moment. To plug up the front of the hive, we use old, wet socks, exactly the thing you never thought you'd have a use for. We carefully position them so that there is an opening in the middle, but have the ability to close it off completely once our pest control is in progress. Each hive also has at least one hole designated to allow moisture to escape, since cold, wet bees are unhappy bees, and that kind of moisture can be fatal. In order for the mite treatment to work, though, we have to make the hive as airtight as we can, so a temporary plug is easily procured from good old duct tape. This powdery white stuff is not sugar. It is oxalic acid. A little goes a long way. We place a small scoop in the cup of our ironing spoon wand. I had to ask my dad what that thing was called. It's actually a vaporizer, but it's basically an ironing spoon wand. It heats up the spoon side until the oxalic acid cooks into a vapor, distributing throughout the hive. This vapor does not harm the bees, but it does a number on the mites. The cooking part takes about 4 minutes, but the hive needs to be plugged up for a total of 10 minutes for the vapor to do its job, so when we remove the wand, we plug them up completely for a bit. Once they've been thoroughly vaporized, we look inside to see how they're doing. The thing you want to see is a lot of bees right at the top of the hive, like this one. The top panel is sort of glued on by the bees and needs to be gently pried off using a hive tool and carefully lifting at the corner, sliding along until the lid comes free. Once the top panel is removed, you can see there are a lot of bees in here. This looks like a pretty strong hive, but looks can be deceiving, so we're going to check into that a little deeper. A bit of smoke helps keep them from being too angry, but they weren't really all that bothered by us today. The wind, on the other hand, made things really difficult, blowing that top panel and knocking some of the bees a bit. It is good to check their frames to make sure they have enough stored honey to make it until things start blooming. This can be a very dangerous time for bees. They're starting to become active, using more energy, but there's no new food coming in quite yet, so they can eat through all their stores and starve just before spring. We definitely don't want this to happen to our bees. This hive is in pretty good shape, so we're putting their frames back in, taking care to line them up evenly so everything fits just right. The bees won't be sorry to see us go. They probably wonder what they did to invoke such a disturbance. As an apology, we'll leave them a gift. After the top panel is back in its place, we pour some sugar around the top, in case they get desperate. Ideally, we wouldn't get any actually inside the hive, but that wind, it just made things difficult today. Once all that is complete, we reattach the mice barriers and remove the duct tape. Now the bees are healthy and we've checked each hive to make sure they have enough food to last.